Well, the Pentagon is reportedly dragging its feet over releasing more of those detainees and closing Gitmo. President Obama is said to even have given Defense Secretary Ash Carter what they say was a, quote, talking to in September, after several detainees were approved for release, but the paperwork apparently was slowed down and the transfers were canceled. The president, made a promise to close the facility before taking office, but his own defense secretaries have apparently been resisting that. Steve Ace is the senior writer for the Weekly Standard and a Fox News contributor. So, Steve, while the president seems to be running the checkout desk, is the top brass in the back room trying to stop some of this?
Yeah, I think they are. And what's interesting to me is if you note the tone of that article, there's a long Reuters investigation about this. The people who are trying to slow the president on releasing these Guantanamo detainees are portrayed as sort of, unpatriotic or disloyal, when the bureaucrats in the Bush administration who were thwarting his efforts in the war on terror were portrayed as heroes. Look, I think you have military and intelligence professionals who are deeply concerned about the fact that the president is releasing or transferring so many people who have been judged to be dangerous jihadists at a time of an elevated threat. And I think they're right to use every bureaucratic trick, to do everything in their power to slow the release of these dangerous jihadists.
Do you think the president is putting the security of this country at risk with his political decision to try and close it, basically, and release everybody and get them out of there so we can claim that as a victory?
I do, and I don't think that's just an opinion. I mean, if you look at the number of people that he's released so far, 653 detainees have been released or transferred under both Presidents Bush and Obama. 196 of those are either confirmed or suspected of having returned to the fight. That's a number of virtually 1 in 3. You're talking about a population now where it literally is the case that we have the worst of the worst remaining in Guantanamo. So for every one of these prisoners, every one of these detainees that the president decides to release, you can assume that at least 1 in 3 will return to the fight at a time when we're facing an elevated jihadist threat, not just from ISIS, not just from core al-Qaeda, as the administration likes to describe it, but from al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, any number of splinter groups and offshoots that want to attack the United States. There's a reason that people have this anxiety about terrorism and about attacks, and it's not because the president is hyping it, certainly. He's done everything he can to downplay it. The reason is people understand that the threats are real.
Well, do you think the president really deeply actually does understand that? I mean, look what Chuck Hagel said in the stinging interview in Foreign Affairs, quote, Hagel often refused or delayed signing off on dozens of transfers when he judged the security risk too high, often based on advice inside the Defense Department. The White House grew deeply frustrated with Hagel over the delays. Quote, it got pretty bad, pretty brutal, Hagel said. I get the hell beat out of me all the time on this at the White House. Hagel insisted that he would not be rushed into approving transfers. I mean, it sounds like the White House doesn't even care about the security. And when you got your own defense secretary saying, I'm not doing it, I'm not checking these guys out, don't force me, don't push me, and he's getting, in his own words, the hell beaten out of him, basically for political reasons by the White House for releasing these people?
You look, and this is also part of a broader story, Eric, where you've got the administration making political or ideological decisions about the war on terror, ending the fight, ending what President Obama described as George W. Bush's boundless war on terror, despite the fact that you have intelligence professionals reporting to the president and the White House that the threat is increasing, that al-Qaeda is gaining territory, that it's adding to its numbers, that ISIS is a growing threat. This is all part of that same story, where the President of the United States is saying, in effect, to his intelligence and military professionals, it's nice that you are providing me with these assessments. I'm choosing to set them aside because I've got my own objectives. That's exactly what you're seeing here. And with respect to the defense secretaries, it wasn't just Hagel. There was a change in the law several years ago that required the defense secretaries to personally certify that these detainees who were released or transferred would be monitored and would not present a threat to the United States. Well, the defense secretaries couldn't do that because in many of the cases that we're talking about, you have very senior al-Qaeda or Taliban officials who are being released or being transferred who won't be monitored by the host countries, some of them being released outright, and will present a threat to the United States in the future. We saw that with the Taliban 5, where the administration, where you had intelligence professionals saying, these guys are going back to the fight, they'll present a threat, and you have the president, in effect, shrugging his shoulders, saying, man, it's worth it, it's worth the chance.
So who has the final say? I mean, as the commander-in-chief, is it the president's decision, Or can the generals, can those in charge in the Pentagon actually say, no, we are not doing that, because that's a danger to this country? And even though, opponents are against Gitmo, say it violates human rights and should have been started in the first place, we just can't take that chance.
Well, it's the president. He's the commander-in-chief. I think he has wide authority on this. I think you've seen members of Congress with exactly the new regulations that I just mentioned, and you've seen the Pentagon bureaucracy try to slow him down on this. But I think it's deeply worrisome. We've got a new piece in the Weekly Standard this week accusing the president of flat-out lying about what's happening at Guantanamo. When he was asked about Guantanamo just last week or 2 weeks ago by Olivier Knox of Yahoo News, he said that there had only been a handful of recidivists in the population of folks who have been released.
So you're saying he lied?
Flat out untrue.
Literally lied? The President of the United States literally lied.
Untrue. No question about it. And it's incontrovertible. I mean, this is not, just my opinion. The President said there have been a handful of recidivists. There have been, in fact, 196. The President said that the people who have been released were what he called, quote, low-level individuals, unquote. They're not low-level individuals at all. Many of them were top aides to Osama bin Laden, senior figures in the Afghan Taliban. The President of the United States has repeatedly lied about what's happening at Guantanamo, about what he's doing with Guantanamo detainees, and it's as if he said this into a vacuum.
What if he accidentally misspoke? I mean, maybe he just misspoke.
Yeah, if he had done it once, I think we could give him the benefit of the doubt. This is a pattern, and we know that the President of the United States, particularly on the number of recidivists, he doesn't believe that there have been a handful of recidivists. His own Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, handpicked by the President, is the one who said that there were 196 confirmed or suspected recidivists.
All right, Steve, we're out of time.